Hello. So, think it's time we did this. We've sure announced UBL Season 3, and obviously the Draft League planner has gone up for that. A Draft League analysis. Draft analysis. But, just gonna adjust my mic slightly. I thought it was a good idea, before really getting deep into UBL Season 3, was to look back at Season 2 and identify where we went wrong, because I think identifying mistakes is something good to do, because you identify your mistakes, you learn from them. So, our draft from UBL Season 2, quite frankly, I was not happy with it. Come the end of the season, I was I think we tried to salvage it, but really, I think I took too much of a bad approach with this one. And I don't think it ended up working as much as I wanted it to. When drafting the original team, which is on your screen, which is when we had Dialga, we had Neuven, we had Tangela, and we had Conkeldurr as well. We had all four of those before the switches. What I ended up doing with this draft was I tried to pick out Pokemon that I thought were good. I tried to draft a good Pokemon. I tried to focus on speed tiers, and I tried to focus on types, and that was what I thought was really good about it. And as I kind of tried to make apparent that, especially the start of the season, the team was supposed to be very versatile. But did I play it versatile? No. Not at all. As soon as I realized what the good Pokemon were on my team, I used the good Pokemon on my team. You joking? Like, did I go a week without bringing Kang? Week 1 Kang, week 2 Kang, week 3 Kang, week 4 Kang, week 5 Kang, week 6 Kang, week 7 Kang, semis Kang. What else was on? I think Coco might have missed a week. Coco missed week 5. Lugia, I think, only missed the last 2 matches. So yeah, like, I knew what my good Pokemon were, and I really didn't, like, stray away from that. And I think the problem was, the main problem with this draft was, I picked good Pokemon. I focused on the speed tiers, which the speed tiers I was proud of. Like, we had 2 really slow Pokemon, 2 kind of sort of slow Pokemon, where there was supporty to help set up Trick Room anyway, some kind of middling speed Pokemon, some faster Pokemon, and some very fast Pokemon. And the typing as well. There was the only types I think I missed were Bug, Rock, and Ice in this draft. Which I was really proud of. And I thought, well, the pieces themselves, they're versatile. They don't need support to work. And that is what I kind of focused on. But it turns out, when pieces don't need support to work, that doesn't necessarily make them better than other options. When you have synergies between pieces, that's what can really make the difference. And the synergy between these pieces was not good, barring one, but we'll get to that. Especially, like, when I realized this, like, early in the draft, that my top was very weak to ground. And that's why we had to make some of the changes that we did. We tried to salvage the draft, and also trying to add modes to the team. But we'll talk about that in a sec. For now, like, going over the original draft itself, Dialga, when I first picked it, it made sense. It made total sense. It was the strongest restricted Pokemon at the time, and I thought, I can't pass this up. It's Dialga. It was the best restricted Pokemon realistically left. For what I could think of anyway, because, like, I didn't really want to pick Xerneas, and nothing else really appealed to me. So I just picked Dialga, not realizing that a lot of my other top-end Pokemon that I would likely be wanting to bring were also weak to ground, and it kind of just made a whole dynamic of the team that really kind of hurt it. Conkeldurr was good in theory, but in practice it just never did enough for me, and that's why it ended up getting dropped. Like, it was supposed to be my prime Trick Room sweeper, but at base 45 speed, if I wanted to go Trick Room, like, I couldn't fight Trick Room with... I couldn't go, okay, here's a Conkeldurr, I'm gonna fight you in Trick Room, when people have better Trick Room modes. And I don't really have great ways of stopping Trick Room myself, so trying to shut down Trick Room and giving my backup of just having Conkeldurr wasn't really the best option. And then Tangler and Noivern, neither of them came to a match. Tangler was in theory very good, it was a tier 5 redirector, but I never wanted to bring Tangler. I knew in my head, as soon as I brought Tangler once, it was a one-trick pony. As soon as Tangler was brought once, that was it. Someone, like, everyone every week would run safety goggles, but I just could never find a good time to bring Tangler. It always just kind of felt like a dead piece, and it was like, what was I redirecting? I never was wanting to realistically set up Trick Room, and, like, nothing else really set up, so it was like, it just didn't make sense. And then Noivern I picked because I was like, oh, it's a fast dragon, and I need to try. I was trying to cover up the ground weakness of the team. I knew there was a massive ground weakness to the team, so I'd pick Noivern. But Noivern doesn't really do a lot. It was a fast Taunter, it was an option for Tailwind, and that was it. And I never used it, because it just never felt right. Like, it always felt too weak. Flying Dragon coverage was great, but in the original team, you know, we had Dialga. Why would I ever use Noivern over Dialga? It made no sense to. So, and there was no synergy. There was no, like, there was pieces here to have a Trick Room set up. If I wanted to use it, you know, Tangler, Jellicent, Conkeldurr, or even Muk. But, like, there was no reason for me to do it, because a lot of the time, like, me trying to go faster was better. My good pieces were on the faster side, so me trying to set up Trick Room just never felt like a good idea. And the one time I really did try and go with Trick Room, that didn't work. So I was put off it for the rest of the season. So, it was a really, really awkward one. So when we tried to fix the draft, we tried to add modes, because I realized I just kind of had a core 4, and then it was like, well, now I'm just trying to pick up extra stuff. So we go to the change draft. This is everything, right? I think it's missing a Pokemon. Yeah, because it should be one more. Oh, I didn't put Muk in the new draft. But yeah, so, like, with the changes we made halfway through the season, I felt good about them, because it gave us modes. It gave us modes to the team that felt like they could help cover up the weaknesses of the team. The thing is, I made so many changes that those weaknesses didn't exist anymore, you know? Honestly, just making Kyurem Abomasnow changes were good enough. Celesteela ended up being pretty good. Magneton didn't do anything. I always said it was going to be an electric terrain mode, and I just kind of brought it as another steel type, and I was, just because I knew Noivern wasn't doing anything, so I was like, yeah, let me pick up another steel type, you know, like, I'll use this, right? No. I never used it once. It was supposed to be for electric spam, but every time I tried to look at someone's team, it was like, what does electric spam doesn't work here. So, Abomasnow Kyurem, I think, was a good pickup, in theory. And I think in practice as well, it kind of worked, because it, especially bringing it the first week I had it, it was like, people suddenly have to respect this Hail core. Which I don't think people actually respected it as much as they should have, really. Like, if I brought Abomasnow Kyurem more, I think it would have actually been good, because, like, I brought it one week, and I was like, okay, yeah, people are going to start prepping for it now, you know, I've got Abomasnow, and I think Gil Bates did it. Well, I knew Gil Bates was going to, in week 6, they were going to bring Sand, and it was like, well, me bringing Abomasnow is never going to work into that. And I thought Canna would do the same thing in week 7. They were like, okay, yeah, you've seen I have a Hail Core, you have a Sun Core. They're going to bring it, so why would I bring the Bomber Snow? And then they didn't bring it. So, I think if I kind of used the Hail Core more to my advantage, it would have helped. But Kyurem was good. I was very happy with Kyurem. I think I could have played better with it, but yeah. And a Bomber Snow I was actually quite happy with as well. As a tier 5 Hail Setter, I was actually pretty happy with it. And Celesteela, I think I actually tried to rely on too much, actually. I was like, this is my new tier 2, this is going to be trying how I win late games, and that doesn't work. If people know you want to play with Celesteela, they're going to, you know, fit techs on there. And in a sense, it had anti-synergy with Coco, because a lot of the time, Celesteela wants to sit in the late game, and people were just running electric moves, and just killing Celesteela because of my own electric terrain, so it was really hurting me. So, and then, like I said, Magneton didn't do anything. I tried to kind of patch up the team, and in turn, I think I somehow created, like, more weaknesses, because, like, you saw, like, when I went against Vatrat, if I didn't bring physically defensive, like, Arcanine, I just lost to Dom. Like, look at my team. I have 2 fire resists. That's not a good thing. So, it ended up going from ground types destroying me to fire types destroying me, because I ended up picking steels and picking up a Hail Core, and I didn't think about the consequences of that and what I was losing to get those and compensate for that. And the speed tiers changed. There was no reason for me to go with Trick Room anymore. Obviously, we tried to fight in Trick Room against Airstream, because I knew it would be super hard to stop. And that was a miscalculation on my part. I should have thought about the sculpts more, but yeah. Like, I didn't bring Muck once. That was supposed to be my new Trick Room sweeper, but I never wanted to play Trick Room. Though it actually could have been good against Airstream, because I believe it actually underspeeds Dusclops with an Iron Ball. That could have been an option, but yeah. It was such a... Like, Muck had, like, one chance to come and I didn't bring it. And it just kind of felt weak. Nidoking came once, and it was okay, but I really missed the bulk of Nidoqueen. Like, so much. You can really feel it. You can really feel a lot of bulk on Nidoking to Nido... Like, between the two, I really felt it this season. After that, the first time I tried it, I was like, like, you have to invest in your bulk to make it worth it. And it just wasn't worth it, so I just never felt the need to bring it. It was in consideration against Airstream for the semi-finals, though. Me and Lyric were talking about a potential Scarf Nidoking. But that was the only thing that put me off going with that was, like, if they bring Scarf Kyogre again, Scarf Nidoking does nothing. So, I didn't know if they would try and go with fast mode again, or just, like, have their Trick Room mode, but also have a fast mode with, like, Scarf Kyogre. So I was like, I can't risk that. I just couldn't. Like, I never felt the reason to bring it, and I think another problem was, well, with the original draft was, with Nidoking, I was like, yeah, it's got all this great coverage, and it's got such, you know, it's Life Up Shift Force, super powerful, and, you know, it's got the better speed, right? But with the original draft, we had Dialga, and Dialga did the same thing, except it was bulkier, had a little less power on it, but it was bulkier, had a better typing defensively, and also had, like, extra coverage like Flash Cannon and Dragon Pulse. So, I never felt the reason to bring Nidoking. Like, most of the time. So, it just kind of fell on the wayside. Again, Jelly, I think, was not a disappointment, but I think I didn't use it as well. I think one thing, I picked it up thinking, this is going to be a great Trick Room setter, it's going to be a great bulky water. But I didn't bring it much. And I think one of the reasons why is because when in Gen 8, honestly, one of my main draws to Jellicent is Strength Sap, and it doesn't get that in Gen 7. And that was something I really kind of missed out on. Like, being able to burn things is great, and being able to recover is great, but when you can't drop stats and recover as well, it really kind of lowers the value of Jelly. So, I just, like, the only times we brought it, I believe, were against Airstream because it had Water Absorb for Kyogre. And both times that I brought it, I messed up with it, because one I was supposed to bring a Wakana and I brought a Citrus, and the other time I miscalculated speeds on Dusclops. So it was kind of awkward. But I feel like Jelly was a Pokemon I felt like I could have used it better. As for Serena, Serena had its moments. It wasn't consistently good, but it had its moments, mainly against Gilbase. Utilizing Serena in that matchup was super, super good. And Serena's a Pokemon I just really like in Double, so I was really happy to have it, but yeah. It was a situationally good piece, which I think was actually still good. I was happy to have Serena. Reasonably bulky, good attack, middle in speed. I was fine with Serena. I think Serena was kind of the most neutral Pokemon on this team, where I was like, I wasn't really happy or unhappy with it. It did its job. It came to the matchups where it was needed, and it did what it could. I think we bought it, what, 3 times? I believe. Or maybe 4. Yeah, we brought it 4 times. We brought it against, Starlet, as a way to try and KO Groudon, potentially. Then we brought it against Airstream to try and, outbulk the, what's it called? Kyogre, but then it got crit, so that was unfortunate. Against, Bill Gates and the Richmond Hill Reddies, it was amazing there, shutting down all the Prankstamons. And then we brought it against Canna, but I don't think I ever used it, because I wanted it as potential, like, just sit in, like, make it so, like, Incin didn't have fake out pressure, but it was like, that's all it was going to be coming for. And in the matchup itself, it just didn't work. So, yeah. And then we didn't even bring it again in the finals, because I wanted in the semi-finals even, because I wanted a different Pokemon. So, quickly going over the Hail Core again, like, it was good. Like, Kyurem was a Pokemon I knew was good. I was really happy with Kyurem. It was a solid piece. It's super bulky. Like, I didn't realize how bulky Kyurem was, but, like, having 125 HP really, like, makes it a lot bulkier than I think people would have kind of guessed looking at it. So, I was pretty happy with Kyurem. I used it in multiple different ways. It was often kind of just, it was offensive, sure, but I used it in different kind of offensive ways. Obviously, I brought AV in the semis against Airstream, whereas I kind of focused on more fast offense. We did Specs, we did Z-Move, we did Berry, and AV. So I think that's 4 different. We brought it 4 times. I believe we brought it every week we actually had it. And we used it in different ways every time. So, and slowly kind of focusing more on the bulkier side of it as we went on. Again, something I was considering scarfing going into the match with Airstream in the semi-finals, but again, I just couldn't justify it. Because I preferred the bulk, because it could really take on Kyogre then. And again, Obama Snow actually did pretty solid as well. We only brought it twice, but it was good. And again, I think I tried to rely too much on Celesteela. But then we get, and so like most of the draft I was disappointed in. It was me relying on there was too many individual pieces that didn't work together. And I think the Hail Core was one of the few saving graces that we tried to pull back. But then we got to the good part. This core of 4. Kang, Koko, Arcanine, and Lugia. Kang, Koko, Arcanine was the core I wanted from the start. And my god, this was not a disappointment. This core was incredible. This was the best part of the draft by far. And if the rest of my draft was like this, we would have won. Kang Coco Lugia was an incredible core. It offered great speed control, great defensive capabilities, while others can go on the offensive. I think if I'd used Arcanine a bit more offensively sometimes, it would have been a bit better. But Coco went bulky or offensive. Lugia, I never expected to, but went on the offensive a good amount. One thing I'm really disappointed I didn't get to use was Z Tailwind, because if you use Z Tailwind, you get a +2 crit ratio, and then you get to then you have guaranteed crits on Aeroblast, and I really wanted to try that, but it just never got the chance. But this core of 3 was insane. It's also what caused me to have a bit of a ground week, and kind of made me obsess about not having ground weeks and try and focus on, you know, getting things that weren't weak to ground. Because both Kang and Coco and Arcanine were weak to ground, but Lugia was kind of the centerpiece to save that, and Lugia and Arcanine were weak to rock, but Coco was kind of the saving grace between those. But the speed control that they provided, and the speed control between the two of Coco Lugia, as well as the bulk that Coco's provided, this core of 3 was the one I wanted going in, and it did not disappoint. It came almost every week. Week 1 it came. Week 2 we missed out on Arcanine. Week 3 the full core came. Week 4 the full core came. Week 5 we dropped Coco because I wanted to fill up the Hail core as well as have Celesteela. Week 6 the full core came. Week 7 and the semi-finals we dropped Lugia for all the pieces that I felt like were more important for the matchup. And especially against Airstream, because I knew Airstream was going to prepare for Lugia, so I just decided not to bring it. But this core was incredible, and I swear by it as the best part of this draft. Hands down. Coco was an incredible piece, and I'm so happy I got to use it. It was unbelievable. I tried not to fall into a habit of using it as a defensive support piece, because I used it week 1. And forced myself to go a bit more offensive with it, and it still worked. It still worked going offensive. Though, if we kind of look at the success rate of going offensive with it, because of what? Week 1 was support. We won. Week 2, we went offensive, we lost. Week 3, we went support, we won. Week 4, we went offense, we lost. Week 5, we didn't bring it. Week 6, we went offensive, we won. Week 7, we went support, we lost. And then in the finals, we went offensive, we lost. So we kind of had a more of a success rate with the supportive set, but that's because that was the one I'm more comfortable with. But it's not like the supportive set didn't deal damage. Lugia, when I went on the offensive, was incredible. And even when it was bulky and like trying to force people to run as much damage as they could to try and just take out Lugia, it was incredible. Lugia was I knew Lugia was going to be a central piece of this team, and it was going to really depend on how good Lugia was. And as soon as I decided to stop running as much bulk and it went on the offensive, it was incredible. It actually dealt respectable damage, and the bulk on it was so good. And it usually would guarantee a Tailwind. Then potential screen support, or like even just having coverage, was so nice for Lugia. And a Pokemon I was very happy to use. It kind of showed how good it was. I think it proved how good it was, and I'm very happy it did so. So, yeah. And then Arcanine, I used it so defensively. I don't, like, how often did I use it offensively? Week 1, defensive. Week 2, it didn't come. Week 3, defensive. Week 4 was defensive for sure. Oh no, week 4 was offensive. Right, because it needed to deal with Mega Mawile. Week 6 was defensive. Week 7 was defensive. And then we didn't bring it for the final. So it was mostly defensive. But that's because it was what I felt comfortable using. Defensive Arcanine just made sense. It makes sense to me. So, but yeah, the whole core was incredible. But I might be leaving out a certain piece here. A certain fourth that was way better than I ever gave it credit for. It might have got nerfed from Gen 6. But bless Mega Kang. If I didn't have Mega Kang, I wouldn't have gotten nearly as far as I did. Mega Kang was insanely good. It meant there was another non-ground weak, it wasn't a rock weak, its only weakness was resisted by 2 of the Pokemon in the main core 4 that ended up being the Kang, the Koko, the Lugia, the Arcanine. If I didn't know what to do, it was those 4. It was those 4 they gained in the match. They were able to go bulky, they were able to go fast, they were all be able to go offensive or defensive. We even brought support Kang once. And yeah, no, Kang was insanely good. It was always impressing me on terms of its bulk. And its damage wasn't always quite there, but it was good enough to really take us home, get us as far as we did. We wouldn't have got as far as we did without Kang. Its fake out pressure was incredible. Its coverage was great. Its bulk was insane. And the core of Kang, Koko, Arcanine, Lugia. Yeah. It was a match made in heaven. I guess it would be the Calc core. K for Kang, A for Arcanine, L for Lugia, and K for Koko. The Calc core. Which, if you know me well enough, you know how much I do calcs, so it kind of makes sense. I guess that's what we'll end up leaving it on, the Calc core. This core of 4 was something I just was like, breaking up this core of 4 just seems wrong. As soon as Arcanine, like, it helped kind of cover up some of the weaknesses of the original core 3, and provide the natural offense to the core that it really needed. Because Koko wasn't naturally that offensive, and I often used its support. Same with Arcanine and Lugia, even when it did go on the offensive, it wasn't that strong. And supposedly, the rest of the team was supposed to pick up the slack on the offense. You know, things like Dialga, or Kyurem, whatever I brought, it was supposed to pick up the offense. But Kang was the one who did. Kang was the one who stepped forward and said, I'm going to be the one to kind of mold this core of 4 together. And as I say, most weeks that core of 4 came, I would say half of the weeks that those 4 came. So week 1 it came, week 2 we dropped Arcanine, week 3 it came, week 4 it came, week 5 we dropped Koko, week 6 it came. So that's 4 of the 8 weeks. It was just incredible. This core of 4 was what basically carried this entire draft on its back. And we wouldn't have gotten as far as we did without it. I do get complimented by some people saying I am a good player, but a good player can only do so much. And I don't even think I'm that good, let's be realistic. If I were to rank myself as a player, I would say I'm an okay VGC player. In the grand scheme of things, I still have a lot to learn. And especially with draft, of course I've got a lot to learn. And I think this draft kind of shows it. I tried to draft what I thought was a good idea of just trying to get individual pieces and make them work. And turns out getting individual pieces doesn't work. Your pieces have to meld together to kind of form a core. I'm sure you don't necessarily need cores to work, but when you have Pokemon, good Pokemon on their own are good. But Pokemon working together is what makes VGC. And that's how you bring out some of the strengths in Pokemon that sometimes you wouldn't see. And I think this core kind of showed it. Lugia was brought out its strengths because it was able to support the team, give speed control, and even deal some pretty good damage. And the whole core of 4 was able to help support each other and deal with the problems of each other's of the other Pokemon. The Hail Core kind of gave us an extra mode of the team. But then when it was like, I'm bringing this, but I'm bringing my Hail Core, but then I also want to bring Kang, I had to make a choice on like what was going to be left behind at that point. And Lugia and Koko kind of helped with the fighting weakness as well. But not everything could be saved, you know. Then there was, you know, if I wanted to bring Kang, the Calc Core with the Hail Core, then I had 4 Rock Weeks, and I was like, well, that's not a good idea. So things had to be sacrificed. And breaking up this core, every time I did it, it felt wrong. So when your cores of Pokemon can work together, that's what makes them good. When you bring out the strengths of each other's Pokemon. And you see in my VGC 20 in UBL Season 3, that was my goal of making sure I had strong cores of Pokemon that had synergy, yet still kind of following in line with some of my previous ideologies and making sure I've got good type coverage. Some of it I lacked on, but to make sure I got those synergies, I made some sacrifices on things. In UBL Season 3, I dropped the idea of having Tailwind on my team. I dropped the idea of having Ground, Electric, and Psychic types. But to make sure I had a good core, like to make sure my team synergized well, that's what I ended up trying to do. And this team didn't synergize as well as it could have, but that's not to say it didn't have good synergies. I think it was a fine team. I never did a power rankings of UBL Season 2, like, towards the end, after all the transactions were made. My final ranking of this, from S to C, I would have put this B. I think it has good pieces, and the Kang, Koko, Lugia, the Calc Core, as well as the Hail Core were good, but the rest of the draft kind of faltered. Celesteal was good, but I relied on it too much. Serena was a fine piece. I think it did a fine job. Jelly was a little on the disappointing side, just because I couldn't use it as well as I wanted it to. Muck and Magneton never did anything, and then Neo King was a good idea and concept, but it just never came into play in practice. So, but yeah, I think that is about it. We've kind of gone over the draft. I want to do reflections like these a little bit more often, looking at drafts, as well as because it helps improve. You look at weaknesses, and look at where you can do better, which is something I try to do. Granted, I've been told to cut down on it because a lot of the time I think I've been told I'm far more critical of myself than I think anyone would be of me. But I try to be critical of myself, because if I try to play favorites, then what good is it to me to try and get better? If I don't take apart each piece and say where did this draft go wrong, then yeah. And also let's not discredit our opponents here either. Our opponents that we played this season were incredible. S-Dream took us out twice, and they had incredible prep in both matches. Canna took us out. Because I came underprepared for Xerneas and Durant, of all things, and mispredicting what they would bring. And then our other loss was to Jamesy, in which, okay, that one I feel a little bit less good about. That one I felt like I still got a bit hacked. That one didn't feel good to lose. So, it's not like... I mean, even then, some of our other sets, like... Still, I think my favourite set of this season still goes to the first set that we played against Lyric. Because that was one I put so much prep into, and that showed how good this team can be. And I think that's also where the birth of the core started, wasn't it? Because originally I brought Dialga, Coco, Arcanine, and Kang to game 1, and I lost to Orlando T. And then that's game 2. We brought Kang, Coco, Lugia, Arcanine. And that was where the birth of the core really came through. The offense of the Kang, the support of the Coco, and then the bulky support, but also offense from the Lugia and the Arcanine. That's where it came to shine, and that's probably why it goes to my favorite set of the season. Because that was the birth of the Calc core. And that's when I realized how good it was. And sometimes you may not realize draft synergies at first. Sometimes Pokemon don't make sense together, you just pick good Pokemon, but sometimes Pokemon work, and when you can utilize those strengths of those Pokemon, that's what really comes into play. It's like in UBL Season 3, when I drafted, we had the Colossal core, which kind of had Colossal, Virizion, Sneasel, and Dragonite. That whole core of 4 kind of worked together. Then we had our Trick Room core of 3 Pokemon with Escavalier, Dusknoir, and Kangaskhan as well, as a slower Fake Out user. As well as, like, all 3 of them could realistically max. And support the other Pokemon as well. And then, so it's like those 2 cores kind of make sense. And then I had 4 Pokemon in the middle. I had Moltres Gala, Vaporeon, Roserade, and Weezingala. And I looked at them and went, okay, yeah, these are my leftover bits. And I kind of looked at them and went, wait, these all have great synergy. And that's the best part. When you realize that there's more to some Pokemon that meets the eye, that's what's beautiful. And I knew going into this Coco Lugia Arcanine was going to be good. It was good. It was the focus of the team. But as soon as Kang was thrown into the mix and we made the Calc core, it was brilliant. So I know the strengths of this team, and I certainly know its weaknesses. But I think overall, it's something I could have improved on. I think it needed more synergy. I think it needed to not rely on a certain core of 4 so much, but that core was so good. It's what got me as far as I did. So, but that will do it for this video. Let me know if you enjoyed. I like doing these kind of reflections because it helps me improve as a player, and maybe it helps you guys too. So, just kind of looking at sometimes where you go wrong and admitting where you go wrong. Granted, again, I've been told I'm far more critical on myself than anyone, really. But that's because I always strive for improvement. I always strive to look where things went wrong and try and improve upon those things. That's how I am as a person. I used to be someone who gave up. Is what I actually used to be like. I used to be someone. I would like. If this was my first draft league, like a few years ago, and I came in and I drafted this team, and even if I got to semis, which I think with the original team I wouldn't have. If I didn't make the changes, I wouldn't have. I would have stopped playing draft league because I was a quitter. I quit. I just said no. I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't enjoy it because I wasn't winning. Funnily enough, I like winning. I think most people do. But when I lost, I just didn't look. I didn't look back on those losses. I didn't look. Why was I losing? I always chalked it up to something else. I always looked and said, you know what? No, that's. I don't accept that. You know, I could blame it on some hacks, or I could blame it on, you know, whatever. But I would never go back and look at why I made those losses, which is why I'm so critical of myself now. I look at each individual piece now and I try and analyze where things went wrong, and so I can improve on those and better myself as a player. That's why I do it. So, it's not something I would always recommend, though. Being harsh on yourself isn't good. It's not good for you, trust me. Sometimes being overly critical can really hurt you in the long run. And I don't think it's really helping me, but it's kind of just a mindset that I've forced myself into, so I don't turn around and look away from those losses. I instead force myself to look back and say what went wrong, so I can improve myself. And I think that helped with Season 3. Season 3, I think my draft, it's incredible. It's up to me as the player now to not only just look at the draft, it's also look at my play. Find out where things have gone wrong in my play. Because obviously not every team that I brought was great, but also it's down to play as well. And I think some of my play during UBL Season 2 was definitely sloppy. Going back and watching some of those matches was heartbreaking at times. Because I was like, if I'd only just done that, if I'd only just done this or that, if only I played around this a bit more. So, yeah. That's why I'm overly critical for it. I think some people have asked that. Like at least in the UBL Discord. Just like why I kind of focus so much on the critical parts, and that's why. It's because if I don't, then I look away and I don't look back. But this one I'll look back on. I'll look back on UBL Season 2. We got top 4. We can't complain at that. You know, we made playoffs. But we didn't get the win that we wanted. We don't play for top 4. We play for the win. So we can look back on this and look at this and go, yeah, there was problems with this draft, but I think it's also important to recognize the good points. Because when you look at everything so negatively, sometimes you miss out on the positives. And I think looking at this draft, it's very clear to see what worked and what didn't. But it's also not as clear cut as black and white. You've got to be able to take pieces like the Serena. Serena was a solid piece, but it wasn't, it wasn't amazing. But it came into its own in certain points, and that's what's important. Looking at the good points and the bad points of each thing, and kind of making a decision on where things could have gone better, and where things did go well. That's what Relfection is all about, and that's what I wanted to do with this. So, I've rambled on long enough, I think. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you actually thought of the draft overall in the comments below. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Season 3 of UBL. I'm really hoping that a lot of my play and kind of what I learned from Season 2 will help in my Season 3 play. So, yeah. Thank you very much for watching, and take it easy, everyone. Peace.